Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, the New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
I'm me, Rob. Let's get down to the TMZ nitty and gritty of what's going on with these Giants football.
Oh, yeah. We got all kinds of news. We got all kinds of talking heads, talking trash, and some talking kind of good. We have a little history to go over. We have a champion, a New York Giant champion. They won a championship here in the last couple of days here. So we thought, since we've been a little busy here the last couple of days there and doing some draft talk about former draft picks there, and since I was out of town, let's catch you guys up and everything that happened here. As I just got back today from good old Jersey. Good old Jersey. Just got off the plane like 2-3 hours ago. We're already back. Back.
How is the pork roll?
Honestly, I did not have any pork roll when I was there. I have it here. I don't have to have it there.
But you have to. Are the bagels as good down there? I don't think
no,
so.
The bagels aren't. No, but I have Jersey bagels here.
Yeah, it's not the same.
It is.
Fresh Jersey bagel with pork roll, freshly sliced, cooked up on the sandwich and griddle.
I had pizza. I had fresh mozzarella from Lavodi's nonstop.
There we go.
Okay. I had
Lavodi's. If you're looking for sponsorship, you're looking.
I had knishes. I had blintzes. I had all the stuff that you can't get here. Okay. I'm good. I'm good. There's only 6 days. I can only eat so much in 6 days.
Touché.
So, all right, let's get right into all the latest Giants news here. Now, first bit of news here I thought was kind of interesting. PFF ranked their top 10 worst head coaching hires in all of the NFL history. And a Giant made number 6 there. And that's Joe Judge. Joe Judge named one of the worst coaching hires in all of history. So this is what they had to say.
Winning at something.
Exactly. He finally won something. They said a 10-23 overall record tells the story of Judge's tenure with the Giants, but so does one specific play from the end of his stint with Big Blue. In what ended up being Judge's final game as New York's head coach, the 21 regular season finale, Judge called for consecutive QB sneaks on 2nd and 11 and 3rd and 9 while the Giants were backed up against their own goal line. New York had no faith they would even execute a basic offensive plan, a terrible reflection on his head coach. Although every pre-week 17 report had suggested Judge's job was safe, the Giants fired him after that cowardly display. Belichick then shockingly tasked Judge and Patricia with overhauling the Patriots' 2022 offense, and we know how that went. I gotta say, I mean,
Belichick's out of job, so
I think that's a little harsh on Joe Judge. I gotta say, like, that's the only Giant hire on there, and I think we all would say that in the end, he's not the worst one. He's not. Ray Handley's the worst coach the Giants ever had. Took a championship caliber team over from Parcells. And yeah, it was bad. It was bad real quick. Like, Judge had his issues. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to say the Judge was a good hire. I'm not here to say Joe Judge was a good coach. But, the issue, the blame and all gets shared, I think, between him, Gettleman, John Mara. I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around for what's happened here. He took over a bad team and didn't improve it. Ray Handley took over a good team that had won, a couple Super Bowls in the last 5 years or so in that time period and turned it to poop.
That's just poop, like big old poop.
Poop. Like had
Triceratops poop and Jurassic Park poop.
Yeah. Had arguably the best football player in the history of the NFL in LT. Had a championship caliber team. And did poop with it. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying not to curse so much here. I know he just got back from Jersey. But again, Joe Judge, bad team, stayed bad. Ray Hanley, great team, went bad.
Very bad.
I think it's a little. I guess it's just fresh in their mind, and it's that kind of thing where they're looking at it going, okay, well this is obviously one of the worst ones ever. I mean, I'll go over the full list with you guys, in a moment here, but you can tell that whoever wrote this, and maybe I'm going to sound old when I say this, but probably someone young doesn't know the really old bad coaching decisions that are made in the NFL, because not a single one of them was older than 92. So you're talking 32 years. When the Giants alone are 100 years. It just skipped 70 years of NFL history.
Yeah. I think you see in modern NFL.
Yeah. I would have been more okay with that. I really would have. I mean, the Giants clearly hired a guy who wasn't ready. A guy who probably was one hell of an interview, though. I mean, let's be honest. We were all pumped to run through a wall after getting,
he sounded great.
Press conference. Yeah. And then, day one, we're like, Joe Judge? Who the hell is that? Who's the freak is Joe Judge? Day two, it is press conference. We're like, yeah, this is the guy, smash mouth, offensive line. Let's get it rolling.
You want to be a rock star? Get your game on. Go play.
Wow. All that glitters is gold. But I feel like, again, I just horrible coaching hire, but all-time worst? I don't know. Am I crazy, Rob? Like, is that an all-time worst hire?
I think it's it was a really bad hire. Let's be honest. Let's not beat around the bush here. Yeah. It was very bad, but worse. NFL, like you just said, so the NFL, just the Giants themselves are celebrating 100 years in the NFL. To rank him number 6 out of 100 years of bad coaching, it's a little unfair. There's been some bad hires.
Yeah. Do you think he's upset he only got number 6? Like, is that something you want to be number 1?
Yeah.
What does it take to be number 1?
Yeah. How bad did I have to mess it up? Should I have done 3 QB sneaks in a row?
I didn't win that 6 games that first year.
I just tried really hard with a bad team.
Here you go, guys. Though here's your top 10 that PFF gave, and like I said, they're all very recent. Number 10, Adam Gase with the Jets in 2019. Number 9, Freddie Kitchens with the Cleveland Browns 2019 as well. Richie Kotite with the New York Jets 1995. We've already got three. We've done 3 of them. 2 of them already been the freaking Jets. Number 7, Matt Patricia with the Detroit Lions 2018. I'm sorry. Matt Patricia's the worst coach than Joe Judge. Then we got number 6, as we mentioned, Joe Judge. Number 5, David Shula, Cincinnati Bengals, 1992. Number 4, Hugh Jackson, Cleveland Browns, 2016. Number 3, Bobby Petrino, Atlanta Falcons, 2007. Remember, like, quit on that midseason. So, yeah, I can give him that one. That's definitely number 2. Nathaniel Hackett, Denver Broncos, 2022, which I don't know if that counts towards the Jets because now he went to the Jets as an OC after. Yeah. And number 1, which I got to agree with here because how bad of a train wreck this was. I didn't like the hire as much as others did when it happened, but I didn't expect this bad. Urban Meyer, Jacksonville Jaguars, 2021. Yeah, that was a really horrendous decision there. So, again, I'm just not so sure that 6th overall is warranted. It's definitely warranted to say he was a bad coach and he wasn't ready. But 6th overall, that's a little extreme. That's a little crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about a positional change here. Because we have one to talk about here. In the man who has no position, Isaiah Simmons. Because his role is going to change here. His role is going to change. They're saying 100% this year. And, I don't think that it's as crazy as some people say. Because some people are like, oh my God, they're going to change his whole. He was basically a 3rd down linebacker last year, guys.
Yeah, let's be real.
Now it's like we're officially making him that kind of linebacker. Defensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator Shane Bowen said, in our minds, he'll be 1st and 2nd down nickel and then playing money on 3rd downs. So the difference is going to be, last year he came down in obvious passing scenarios, played the linebacker role, that money backer at that point there, came down for passing downs for coverage and blitzing skills. Now, if it's not an obvious one and he comes on the field, he's going to come on as more of a nickelback. Look at this photograph. Every time I do.
As your eyes get so red.
But
what the hell's on Joey's head?
What? But it's like, I feel like it's a weird spot to put him in. But it's almost like if you needed a nickel and you think it might be a run, now you have a linebacker that's basically out there in coverage. I guess there's an advantage to that. But I also look at it as he failed miserably as a safety in Arizona. Like, is that really where we want to put him? I don't know. We've talked about this before. I don't know where the best position is for Simmons. I don't think anyone does, and that's why he hasn't made it in the NFL yet,
I mean, that's probably why he's at the money position, on third downs. Like, that's kind of like he's more of the safety net to not let up big plays up the middle.
Yeah, and I like him there.
Yeah,
I like him there in that position. I think you want to put him as a backup linebacker that comes in obvious passing scenarios because McFadden is just not his strong suit to do that kind of role. Then, yeah, it works. You put the two of them together, they kind of handcuff each other, and they kind of work well. But I just don't think that putting him in nickel is a good idea. I really don't. Unless you're putting him specifically on tight ends or something like that, and you want to use him for that kind of coverage ability. But that's a little scary, and I'm not sure how that's going to work out for them. I'm trying to be optimistic. I don't want to be the Debbie Downer here. I'm just saying. I just think that I can't be very optimistic about that. I think it's not the right spot for him, but we'll see what Bowen does, and we'll see if he does right there. But I mean, am I crazy? Is that the wrong spot, or?
I'm impartial to it because, we talked about the pickup of this guy, that he's a Swiss Army knife in the backfield. Like, he's not the solid guy in any one position, but he's a guy that can play all positions, but he's not the guy to play the one position great.
He plays below average, but not embarrassing everywhere.
I mean, we talked a little higher on him when we first got him, but now that we watched more tape on him, actually playing as a Giant, we can be a little harsher about it, but I don't know. I think maybe the coaching staff may have seen something. They made a lot of moves, and the way with the other players surrounding, having Burns, having Thibodeau on the sides, on the edges, having different player moves, it might be something that works out the way they set up the players.
Yeah,
where there has to funnel to him.
We'll see, and it's hard to fully judge, I think, because of the fact that again, Shane Bowen's there as a brand new defensive scheme going to have for the Giants there. So we can go based on what a typical nickel back is at that point, but it's do you think that's going to be the role? Is it possible the nickel back is a slightly different position in his defense? We don't know what he's going to do yet because we've never seen a real Shane Bowen defense. We've talked about it before where Vrabel had a lot to say with what happened in Tennessee. This time he's got full, abilities to do what he wants. He might not have agreed with stuff that was done in Tennessee. So we'll have to see. It's gonna be an interesting thing to see how that happens because the first couple of weeks you can kind of see how it's going to pan out and see from there. If it's the right spot for him there. But like I said, I got some concerns, but I'm trying not to be overly negative. So, all right. Next up, we got to talk about two Giants that seeked out higher education at TEU. Oh yes. Ooh. Tight End University. Daniel Bellinger and Jack Stoll attended the Tight End University here. For those who have forgotten about TEU, because I know it only comes up once a year, so we sometimes forget about this kind of stuff here. It was started back in 2021 by Greg Olson, Travis Kelce, and George Kittle, three of the best tight ends in the league at that time, and now two of the best, and the guy who shouldn't have lost his job to Tom Brady. But that's just where he's at. This is Bellinger's third consecutive trip there. I know they said a lot of nice things about him leaving prior. I guess kind of pump people up his rookie year at that point, But I wonder, Jack Stoll goes too, but why wasn't Theo Johnson there? And I got to be honest, I don't know if there's an invitation only thing, like he did not get the invite, or did he choose not to go, or I just, great. Jack Stoll went. Listen, he's a blocking tight end. I don't expect anything crazy from Jack Stoll. Great. Bellinger, he's gone the last 3 years. I kind of expect that. Why not Theo? I'd rather have him than Jack Stoll there.
I mean, we don't know. Does he have a family reunion?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Unfortunately, all we can do is guess in this scenario. Was he not invited? Did he turn down the invite? We don't know. We have no way of knowing this. But, it's something that I love they do it, first off, because it shows a lot of character for the guys who ran it, because they're literally helping their competition. That's a little crazy. But they're doing it. They just love the position, love the game of football. So I give them kudos for that. But that's an opportunity for a young guy trying to break out in this league that literally has a chance to steal a starting position his rookie season. Because he literally can. It's going to be up for grabs. It's going to be him or Bellinger. Now Bellinger gets this advantage. So we'll see what happens overall. But if Theo Johnson is a little slow to start, or seems to kind of have a little more learning curve than we were hoping at this point when the season starts, one of the things you might look back on and go, why
didn't try?
Why wasn't
he try?
I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. I don't want to say he didn't try, but it's almost like, where was he? Like, well, why wasn't he there? And again, I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's Titan University guys at that point. But I just find it a little weird that Jack Stoll, of all people, was there. That's not exactly a big name tight end. So, but they have lives outside of this as well. So, we'll see what happens. As John says, I heard the new tight end was with the Hawk Tua girl. I don't think there's a tight end left in that girl at that point.
Well, it has nothing to do with her ends. Just saying.
That's just the beginning. I mean, that poor girl. I actually feel bad for that girl. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, she gave a drunken, honest answer. Like, it's okay. Just go with it.
She broke the internet.
Yeah, she did. She really did. She did single-handedly what Kim Kardashian tried to do with her tuchus so many times. Not even funny. But yeah, that's where we're at. All right. Let's stop talking about Hawk Tua and all. Let's get into let's get to the fact that the Giants, we talked about this earlier, they were going to do a special thing. It was part of their 100th season anniversary special here. They were going to go ahead and decide the greatest play in New York Giants history. So they had it, last week there, I believe Thursday. Because I was thinking about going, so I'm going to be up in Jersey, but I had to go to a high school graduation. That's why I was up in there.
Yippee!
And now next Thursday they're gonna actually have a live feed on YouTube on that. So we'll talk about that during the show. But they announced the 100th anniversary season special, the best play ever in New York Giants history. And it's probably not going to be a shock to you guys which one won. It's the helmet catch. It's got to be the helmet catch. I said it's got to be the helmet catch, guys. Like, that play was so amazing. And the crazy thing is, some people forget sometimes that wasn't the touchdown. Touchdown was, a few plays later to Plexico Burtis.
That's what got us in that position.
Yeah. But that was like I have to get a first down scenario. Eli Manning, quite frankly, was getting tugged down by defenders, and I'm surprised the whistle didn't get blown by the refs to prevent him getting hurt. That's how bad he was getting dragged at that point, And you got a guy, David Tyree, who was was a special teamer. That's what he was. He was a special teams guy who was you're the last at the bottom of your depth chart as far as an actual wide receiver. It's kind of like putting Gunnar Olszewski out there, basically. This is not the guy you expect to make a play. He was the guy. Eli just chucked it up because he had nothing. If that wasn't a play, the game was over. The Patriots won.
Right, it was third down at that point.
I think it might have been fourth down, to be honest with you. But I think you got to look at the fact that saved a ring for us 100%, absolutely saved it. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it right now to verify which one it was here. Yeah, it was third down. 3rd and 5
Third
from
and
the
long.
44-yard. 3rd and 5.
35, that was it.
Long. But yeah, I mean, that's just it's absolutely crazy. And again, Tyree was the guy who point blank just wasn't the guy you'd expect to do it. And the crazy thing is, too, people don't remember is the play before that, Asante Samuel, who was a very good cornerback in those days, dropped an interception. Like literally, like should have gotten it, should have ended the game right there, and just dropped it. So, you know, the whole series was amazing, but that play is just like absolutely amazing. And the fact that David Tyree did it in, you know, Patriots all around him when it happens, but specifically the guy covering him is Rodney Harrison, who, while he didn't go to the Hall of Fame, he was a guy that's probably in the Hall of Very Good. You know, like that's a legit player at that point, Rodney Harrison at that point. You know, you get a guy who point blank barely played on offense, making a catch against a guy who was at least in consideration for the Hall, even though he never got in. He was a guy that at least got some votes every year when voting came around, and had a long career between the Chargers and the Patriots, and as a very, very good safety in this league. And that's the guy. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, to be able to post that against your helmet, keep it, not have it drop. Because keep in mind, I mean, you got a hand on it against your helmet, and you're trying to keep it. Like when that impact happens when you hit the ground, that's so easy to pop at. It's not even funny.
Oh,
the ball is round. Like it's not like it's like a square object against that, or like it's concave enough to fit and wrap around that helmet. Like that's the crazier part to me about what happened in that whole scenario, is the fact that he was able to hold on to it. You know, yeah, it's just absolutely insane. It's like divided the laws of physics that even happened. Like, but luckily he caught it. We got the win. We got the Super Bowl, and the Patriots did not get the perfect season. The only thing I feel bad about the whole scenario, just a little bit, is Junior Seau didn't get his ring.
I don't feel that bad.
No, and I don't feel that bad, but I mean, especially given what happened to later on and stuff like that. Like, that's the one thing his resume didn't have. And let's be very frank again, we won it. I'm not saying we didn't deserve to win it, because we won it. But I think if you play that game 10 times, the Patriots win more often than the Giants.
Probably 9 times.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I'm saying. It had to be that kind of exact scenario, basically. So.
And you have to figure too, like that, you know, high catching it, you know, the helmet catch being caught, making the Giants win the Super Bowl, ruining the Patriots' perfect season.
Yes. So this was, if they had won this game, they would probably have been called the best football player ever.
Team ever.
Like, you know, the best player ever, technically, with Tom Brady potentially. I still go back and forth to him and LT. It's hard because the difference in offense, defense, different generations.
I was going to say generations, and you also, it's very difficult to compare that because it's
one had vitamin supplements, one had cocaine.
Yeah,
but I mean that would have been the best team ever. I mean that would have you would have said the Dolphin team that was undefeated was no longer the best.
But does that go into Harrison's considerations of one of the best safeties in the league, from Hall of Very Good to Hall of Fame? If he makes that,
no, I don't think that changed it. I don't think people remember him on that play as much as they remember David Tyree, who, all accounts. Again, I don't know the guy personally. I don't pretend to know people personally. I don't know, but from all accounts, a great guy, stand-up guy, and let's be honest, with the career he had, probably wouldn't have had much of an after football career with football itself or being any kind of celebrity or notoriety at that point. But because he had that, he got a lot of speaking engagements and stuff. I know afterwards and stuff like that. You see him at a lot of Giants events still, where if he didn't make that one play, you got David who? Oh yeah, that guy who played special teams 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, the guy was pretty good in special teams.
He wrote a book, I believe. Even he got a lot of kudos for it at that point.
Yeah.
There,
the special catch.
it was a guy who deserved it. A guy who was by all means a great guy. So, you got to like when good things happen to good people. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Let's get into ESPN's Aaron Schatz here. Suggests that the Giants should select and sign Lawrence Guy to be the next guy to add onto the roster. I didn't mean to say it with the next guy. It had to be the next guy. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about this on the show a lot. That in the end, the Giants need to get some help on that defensive line, guys. They really need some help there. I'm sorry. I'm gonna. There's certain things I harp on in the offseason because I feel like the Giants just haven't addressed it. That to me is the biggest weakness in the team. And I know people are going to say corner, we need Stephon Gilmore. I get it. But if Gilmore wasn't there and available, I don't think people would be clamoring as much. They just see a need and a guy who's got a history of being a Pro Bowl caliber corner. That's why they're saying it. The biggest need to me, though, really is that defensive line. You got Dexter Lawrence, who obviously is a freaking stud and the best nose tackle in the entire football, world at that point. Nacho, who has got a lot of experience, and I have no problem with him starting, but he had an underwhelming season last year. He didn't exactly live up to the expectations we had of him. And then you got a bunch of late round picks that we don't know what to think of. Like, to get a guy who's got a lot of, experience in this league, an older guy. So it's not like you got to, okay, well, this guy's definitely going to be around for the next 5 years. No, he's a stopgap Band-Aid for 1 year. Kind of like we were saying with Calais Campbell before the Dolphins signed him. So you can get a guy who's been around a little bit there, Here's what he said, on ESPN about picking up guy there. He said, the Giants' biggest roster hole probably is tight end after retirement of Darren Waller. But without a lot of strong tight ends available on the free agency market, it's hard to recommend that as a big final move. Instead, the Giants have several places on their defense where they can add veteran depth. Guy spent the last 7 seasons with the Patriots and can play against the pass and the run. He had an 83% stop rate last season on his run tackles, meaning that they stopped a successful offensive play 83% of the time. The Giants don't want to be rotating out Dexter Lawrence very much, but Guy would give them more depth along with Jordan Phillips and Raheem Nunez-Roches. Now, first off, guys, tight end is not the biggest hole. Yeah. That's part of the problem I have with guys who like are NFL guys, not a team guy. And it's not knocking, Aaron like that. All these guys do it. You can't follow religiously 32 teams. You can't.
Well, it's also not that. They go, all right, Waller's a big name in this NFL. He's, arguably top 5 we should be when he's healthy.
Yeah.
At the tight end spot. So you lose a guy like that. Like, people say that's a hole, but depending on how your offense is set up, is it really a hole? How your tight end game is playing out? Like, would you say
it's not a hole to me because you got the starter from 2 years ago still on the roster, plus you have a guy you just drafted.
Correct. But once again, I'm just saying, you look at, Travis Kelce retires next year, right? They go to the playoffs, he retires. They're going to say how many times Kansas City has to fill that hole of the tight end position. But is it really a hole for them? Because you still got Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Do they really need Kelce to be the number 1 receiver?
But to your point, you don't know who's the backup tight end for the Chiefs. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
I couldn't. But, I mean, you're talking about the best receiver.
That's my whole point of why guys can't cover the NFL and speak like this, because they don't know. They don't. It's impossible to know every single player in the NFL. Now, I have no clue who the backup tight end is for the Chiefs, so I would never say, the Chiefs would need one in your scenario where Travis Kelce retires. But
I'm just saying because he's the number 1 guy at that spot.
Yeah.
So you obviously going to say that.
But that's what the guy just did. He said, they need the biggest hole they have is tight end because they lost Waller. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
That's what I'm saying, because he's number 5. He's the top 5.
I get that. Year, you could say he's the biggest loss, potentially. But even that would be
the biggest hole. Is different.
A bigger loss. Xavier McKinney's a bigger loss.
Yeah.
But that he'd be at least entitled to his opinion in that regard.
Yeah.
But the biggest hole, you can't say that.
Yes.
I'm not going to entitle him to that opinion. That's stupid.
That's what I was trying to get. It's it's a big loss, but it's not a big hole.
Yeah, but I mean, Lawrence Guy overall is a 13-year vet, guys. He had a 45.4 PFF grade last year, so not very good. And again, he's 34 years old. But he's a guy with starting experience. If you could put on a starter, and he's a 1-year Band-Aid. And if he is still available at this time, guys, that means one thing: he's going to be cheap.
Super cheap.
I'm all for signing another veteran to this line. I'm sorry. I don't like the fact that we're going in with this group. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe these guys look great, and the Giants are very confident in our 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks the last 3 years, but I'm sorry. That's a little crazy.
Yeah.
That's a little crazy. You need to have one guy who's got a proven track record that's not going to embarrass himself just in case. Because you just don't know. You don't know. So, right, let's get into another guy with a track record that we're not so sure of here. And that's Daniel Jones. Justin Pugh, who we know is, listen, let's be honest here. Justin Pugh, if he's not going to play, he's looking for a spot in the media. You can tell that by the podcasting he does, the videos he does on YouTube. You know, everything he does at that point is trying to set himself up for a future job in the media there. And he had a lot of thoughts here on Daniel Jones that he shared there. He was on Sirius XM NFL radio, getting an interview there. Here's what he said. He said, Daniel didn't play as well as he wanted to last year, and he has come back. He has to come back and fix those things. They gave him a contract. He's got a cap hit of $47 million next year. You're telling me you're not going to trot that guy out there and know whether he's going to be or not be the quarterback of the future? I think the Giants did the right thing. Everybody wanted them to go quarterback in the draft. I think it's to continue to surround him with talent and see what he has. They paid the man. This is a make or break year for Daniel Jones. And I love Daniel. I think he's a great player. People in the media give him a tough time. I think he really has a chance to prove that he's the guy this year. And if he doesn't, for all my Giant fans out there and those NFL fans on the other side, he won't have a job. He won't be on the Giants next year. This is the biggest motivator you have. He's fighting for his career right now because the Giants have an out after this year. I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings to the table. He's locked in. He's throwing in OTAs. He's not getting all starter reps because he's coming off the ACL, but no brace. He's out there slinging it. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to him having a target like Malik Neighbors to throw the ball up to. That's, I think, a strong, solid statement overall on Daniel Jones, except for the fact that I feel like he kind of was trying to brand it as if like he's entitled to another year of it. He's not entitled to it. I'd be clear on that. Like the Giants had every right to look for his replacement this offseason. Every single right based on how he played last year.
I didn't go as entitled. I think it was more of like saying when the Giants gave him the contract, this is their plan. They didn't think of 1 year. They thought of a 2-year plan. We all thought that we're going to quarterback. We all we were on the bandwagon, but
and we clearly did try to trade down for Drake May. So don't tell me we weren't going to go quarterback if we could.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, like if you had a plan of this guy to be your quarterback for the next 2-3 years, possibly, franchise quarterback down the road, like you pay the guy, and then 1 year, like he digressed, but he also got injured.
Yeah,
we don't know what's going on behind the field. Like, was he hurt beforehand? Like, probably wasn't, but you don't know.
Jones, he's always hurt. I just assume that.
Yeah. So you're not wrong for saying that. So, Pugh was there. We weren't. Like, maybe Jones was balanced something beforehand. Obviously, like, Jones didn't have the career he wanted, but the season he wanted. But like you said, I think he's playing both sides of the fence here, but I think he's also, like, just saying, like, hey, like, you got to give this guy a shot. Like, we were all on the DJ bandwagon when he took us to the playoffs. Like, all right, wasn't the best quarterback out there, but you know what? He led these guys with less talent around him.
And that year, that's what I was about to say. The talent part, you can definitely sit there and say, like, I mean, they're pulling guys off the streets and have them be top receivers for them. Like, I've never seen a receiver core that bad as that season. Like that was as bad as it gets. And
we could say that, but then turn around and be like, Daniel Jones was a really bad passer that year. Well,
yeah,
what he was.
Bad offensive line, bad weapons to throw to. I mean, yeah. I mean, I look at that night and day now, the receivers. I mean, Malik Neighbors alone is a huge, increase at that point for him. Wan'Dale Robinson obviously wasn't available at the beginning part of the year. It was then later on when he came back, but still wasn't fully himself because he's coming back off the ACL. Jalen Hyatt was a rookie, had a lot of learning curve, didn't really get into the flow of things till, the second half of the season. There's a lot of things you could sit there and say as far as that. But the problem with Daniel Jones, we talked about it before, is every year you could make those cases. And at some point, he's the common denominator. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't think when he sit there, when he says, you're telling me you're not going to trot that guy out there. Well, yeah, I might not have if I had another option because he was that bad last year.
Yeah, but I mean, given the current the
100%.
current situation, you have to
trot his backside right out there because that's what you got.
Yeah,
that's what you got. I'm not a fan of Drew Lock, so I'm all thinking that it's Daniel Jones or bust. I'm going to be honest. I'd rather see like Nathan Rourke or Tommy DeVito out there than Drew Lock. We've seen Drew Lock. We know what he is. But chances are those guys aren't going to be legit NFL quarterbacks. So therefore, give the guy a shot who at least showed you something when he had a bad offensive line and no receivers, because that's the best option you have. It's not the option I would have gone with. I would have drafted Michael Penix Jr. I think I'm pretty clear on that one. I'm sure Michael Penix Jr. would have preferred that than being stuck on the bench in Atlanta for a couple of years. But that's what we got.
Be ready to retire by the time it starts.
Yeah, like that's what we got now. So go for it. He's a giant. Let's root for him. Let's get it going. So talking about receivers here, we just were talking there a little bit about that. You look back, we talked about a couple of years ago, you got Richie James, Kadarius Toney being traded away. You got Isaiah Hodgins coming out of nowhere. You got guys that aren't even in the NFL basically now that were on the field as receivers for the Giants. Like, that's how bad it was. And now this year, Malik Neighbors, Jalen Hyatt should be better. Wan'Dale Robinson fully healthy. Darius Slayton doing his thing. But apparently, PFF doesn't agree. Name the Giants receivers amongst the worst in the NFL. Listen, sometimes I agree with PFF and sometimes I don't. That's why I always tell you guys, I like to give the ratings out for some positions because it's a little difficult sometimes to grade. Here's the stat that tells you this offensive tackle is good or bad. Like a PFF grade is a legit grade, almost like a stat to give to show that. How many starts and how many pancakes he had doesn't really tell you that. But yeah, I definitely think they're off base in this one here. So they ranked us 28th overall. Again, remember there's 32 teams in the NFL. Here's their little write-up they gave. They said the Giants receiver room will go as Malik Neighbors goes. If he's a star, Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton, and Jalen Hyatt all look like great complementary pieces. After Darren Waller's retirement, Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson are the main options at tight end. Subbing out the pass-catching abilities of Saquon Barkley for Devin Singletary is a downgrade, as Singletary hasn't brought much to the receiving game in his career. I really think that, to me, I feel like they're so stuck on the losses of Waller and Saquon that they can't move past that. They acknowledge how huge an increase in talent it is getting Malik Neighbors. And maybe that's just me assuming he's the real deal like I do, because I really do think that. But it's just crazy to me. It's just absolutely crazy there. So, okay, Waller's down. Well, Waller's down half the year anyway. You lost half of Waller, really. You didn't lose all of Waller.
Say, let's how did refresh my memory, Drew? How was Waller graded in PFF last year?
I can look it up real quick for you.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure he wasn't the fondest looked upon when it comes to tight ends. But for whatever reason,
keep in mind, real quick before I give that though, is keep in mind they're going to include his blocking in that,
which is fine. But they want to talk about how solid.
I'm just saying.
Want to talk about how solid of a player he is due to their like their stat ratings and say how much of a loss he is. and they're going to give him like a 58.
I gotta include that now.
64.
His 69.4 is great, which is a good grade actually. When I looked to see, they did a top tight ends going into 2024. They ranked him 17th, so they gave him an average ranking there.
Yeah.
But again, I think they're overplaying that because you lose Waller for almost half the year when he gets hurt anyway, even if he had played. And Theo Johnson is not a bad player. I think he's going to do something his rookie year. I do think it takes a year or two to develop really a tight end, so I'm not sure how much he'll do, but do something. It's not like a total loss there. And, we talked about with Saquon before. Saquon Barkley, the most overrated thing about him is his receiving. He has like brick for hands at times. He had multiple plays last year that literally went into the other team for an interception that bounced off his hands. I don't think he's nearly as good as people think as far as that. Now, here's the thing about him, though. You get him in the open field, yeah, all of a sudden he's dynamic as hell. But he's got to catch the ball first. That's an important component in that. Now, he had 280 yards receiving all of last year. Okay, he only had one season over 500, and that was his rookie season. He only had 2 seasons over 400. So it's not he's been an amazing receiver. This is not, Alvin Kamara here. That's not what we lost. We didn't lose that kind of player.
Yeah.
Now, for the record, like I said, 280 yards. So he has, I'm looking at Devin Singletary. He's ranged anywhere from about 200 to 880 yards for his career. He had 2 seasons just under 200, 193, 184. So I'm just saying about 200 to 280 for the most part. Just trying to make the numbers a little easier. That's not that huge a drop-off. Now, couple that with the fact that it's funny enough, I didn't even think about when I said it. Alvin Kamara, his old running back coach, is now our running backs coach. He's very big on running back rescues in the passing game. You got Tyrone Tracy Jr., we got from Purdue, as a former receiver that now functions as a running back. Don't tell me he's not going to get passes thrown to him out of the backfield. I really think that they're overstating the losses. Yeah. I really think they're overstating the losses. I really do. And I don't think it's fair. I think they're gotten stuck on the big name. And, they're not looking at the full picture of the roster. They're stuck on, they lost 2 guys who I know. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard of these guys. Lost them. That's what happened.
And we don't know any other guys on these teams. There are a bunch of new guys coming from here and there and everywhere. But Waller, he's been in the season. He's been in the NFL for a while.
Yeah.
Let's look at Shaq. Yeah.
He had some really good years. And again, he had his receiving yards per game was pretty good last year. So Waller was a loss to the passing game. I think people that don't think that are just crazy. I mean, how big a loss, I don't know, because his heart wasn't in it really anymore. Let's be honest in that. Again, the health scare things are more important that popped up there. But, I don't see these guys as that massive of a loss, especially Barkley. Like, I almost laughed when I read that. Like, Barkley is the loss in the passing game. The guy who literally within 3 weeks had 2 tipped balls going for interceptions. Like, he doesn't have good hands. He's great in the open field. We talked about that. Great in the open field. Like, if you want to try to do like a running back drill with him, like I saw somebody do a video the other day of him when he's at Penn State and just like shifted, moved around, and like 3 guys missed him. Like, he had that ability. I'm not sure he has it anymore, but he's not the guy that's going to go ahead and be your third down back like that. He's also not good in pass protection, which hurts the passing game as well. Like, I don't know. I just think that I think they're too focused on those 2 big ones. And I don't understand that. I would rather have, if he is what I think he is, and I'm not saying overall, but at least in the passing game overall, if that makes sense, I would rather have Malik Neighbors where he is now than Saquon Barkley and Darren Waller. I think he'll do more production than those 2 guys.
Yeah, he's also as long as he's healthy through the whole season, like he should be fine because those guys barely put a season together themselves.
But I mean, am I wrong to think that those two guys combined would be maybe 800 yards receiving?
In that ballpark, yeah.
So you picked up Malik.
We put together, like if you had Waller healthy, I think he did it. He had 800 yards, 700 yards.
If he was healthy, but he'll never be healthy. It's not him.
Yeah, it's the thing with Barkley. Like,
but if we had like 550 out of him and 250 out of Barkley, that's 800.
Yeah, that's fair.
If Neighbors doesn't have 800 yards himself, I'll be highly disappointed. That's not even throwing out there what Tracy's going to do, what Singletary's going to do, what Theo Johnson's going to do. Like, this should be a better receiving core than last year. And the focus on those two losses, to me, is just a wee bit ridiculous, to put it nicely. So, all right, let's get into a bold prediction. So bold. And it's so bold it could be a sauce at Taco Bell. That's how bold it is. It's really not that bold at all, to be honest. SI's Connor Orr, who we talked about in the past, he's actually said very nice things about the Giants. He made a list of bold predictions for this upcoming NFL season. And his for the Giants was that Drew Lock ends the year as the starter. Now, I'm not sure how bold that really is, to be honest with you guys. Here's what he wrote up and said. He said, Drew Lock, many times I have felt something with the utmost certainty. See last year's prediction about the Cardinals stumbling into the number 1 pick, only to have that prediction not come anywhere close to being true. However, this season seems set up for Lock to take the job from Daniel Jones at some point, should Jones struggle. And it seems up for Jones and Brian Dable to cook up an offense that feeds Malik Neighbors and steals a few wins in the process. I think the Giants are a sneaky second team place in the NFC East. So do you guys who said some good things about us. With Drew Lock starting a majority of the games. It's not crazy to think Drew Lock may end the season as a starter due to Daniel Jones' injury history and bad play last season. So, you know, I just there's a lot to unpack there. There really is. I think that you look for a season of like Daniel Jones repeating last year. Yeah, he's gonna be gone probably if he repeats last year. Last year he's never been that bad before. I don't think he's gonna be great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. You guys know I'm the realist with Daniel Jones. I don't think he's gonna be great. I don't think he's gonna be as bad as he was last year. I think a potential repeat of 22 is possible, but at the very least, a little bit under that. I don't think a repeat of 23 is probably in the cards for him. No. It was beyond just him playing bad. It was the offensive line being injured. He didn't have the top weapon because Darren Waller wasn't what people kind of thought he was going to be. Now he's got better weapons. He's got an improved offensive line. And I'm not even saying that because of the signings. And people get scared. People say that it's Bobby Johnson's gone. That right there.
Yeah.
Right there makes a huge increase for him. So you get a top flight receiver potentially if he is what we think he is. You get an improved offensive line. He should be much better than he was last year. Even if he's the same player, he should play better because of what's around him. Correct. Now, so I don't see Drew Lock taking it because of lack of productivity. Drew Lock has been to 2 different places before. He couldn't hold the job in Denver. He couldn't take the job from Geno in Seattle. So, yeah.
I mean, Eugene Smith also was the top 10 quarterback
in 22. Not 23, yes. Really. 23 is a little more rocky.
Touche.
But not great. No, not horrible. Daniel Jones was definitely much worse. But I'm just saying, like,
let's not say much so.
I just feel like it's unlikely he's as bad as he was last year. And that's how bad he had to be to lose his job because of performance. What makes it not a very bold prediction to me is the fact that it's pretty obvious that he has the injury history. It's pretty obvious that he could easily get hurt again at any time. That's the one scenario where I could see Drew Lock taking the spot. That's the one spot. So, maybe I'm crazy for that. I mean, he had the one healthy season this entire career, though. It was his best season. But it's the one season he had healthy. I just don't see him as being a guy that I can count on to stay healthy throughout the year. So,
yeah, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, it really is. Especially that neck. God forbid, one more neck injury, he's done. He's probably done playing. That's where he's at. Like, we can't sit there and sugarcoat that and say otherwise. That's where he is at. So, let's get into somebody else who's on a hot seat here. Go from the quarterback in the hot seat to the head coach who might be on the hot seat here. So CBS Sports, Cody Benjamin said that, kind of a little bit of a hot seat here for Brian Daboll. A little hot potato, and instead of potato, it's a seat.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's not that crazy out of left field there, as much as it sounds crazy, because here's a guy who was literally
Coach of the year
in 22, took a team that nobody expected, and all of a sudden goes to the playoffs, win a playoff game, and then last year we all know what happened. And I see the comment from Deb here I'm going to put up real quick because she's 100% right. She said the team as a whole was woefully unprepared to start the season, and that was on the coaching, way too soft of a preseason. I 100% agree. I know you have agreed with me on that as well. We've talked about that ad nauseum on the show. I think that they need to do it different this year. That's part of the coaching. Here's the write-up they gave, though. He said, this is, again, Benjamin at CBS Sports said, few current coaches have seen their stock rise and fall in such a short period of time. Appropriately crowned coach
yeah.
for rejuvenating Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley en route to a surprise playoff win in 2022. Daboll was far more mercurial. I can never say that word. Mercurial as a leader and situational pass caller amid his roster's rash of injuries in 2023. After exiling strong-willed defensive coordinator Wink Martindale, he'll be charged with reviving Jones once more and securing commitment from a club that hasn't kept a coach for more than 2 years since Tom Coughlin. So, yeah, I think the first thing is I don't think that he's really on the hot seat too much, because I think the Giants want to have some continuity. Right or wrong, they want continuity. I mean, they've hired 3 coaches now that have made it for 2 seasons. That's not good.
They're doing great.
Yeah, like that's really not good at all. So, yeah. They want somebody to last more than 2 seasons. Plus, obviously, Joe Shane has a good rapport and relationship with Brian Daboll. I do think that Daboll understands he needs to change, though. And a lot of what you hear in him in this offseason is he's actually a lot softer spoken. He's not as angry and yelling at the players and coaches. Now, the players clearly had no issue with him. They fought hard for him all year long. But the coaches, it was clearly an issue. Clearly an issue. And I think he probably is going to change a little bit. I think he's going to have – I'm going to use an analogy that I'm afraid is going to give too high of a expectation this year. But it's like – and Strahan was the one who really talked about this a lot. In 2007, we talked about the helmet catch, obviously, before that same season. Tom Coughlin came in a different Tom Coughlin.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that, again, I'm not suggesting the Giants are going to win the Super Bowl and blah, blah, blah.
So you say we're going to the Super Bowl.
We still don't have Eli. We still don't have Strahan or OC or any of those guys. But, what it boils down to it is the players started listening and started seeing him as a person. And I'm wondering if that's what he needs with his coaches now. Does Daboll need to have that kind of mentality? Because I remember Strahan told the story about, we went in Auburn to go for practice, and coach just cancels the whole thing. We go bowling instead. We all have a fun time. We saw him laugh for the first time ever. Like, they saw him in a different way. They saw him as a human. And I think Daboll recognizes that how he treated coaches in the past is an issue. And I wasn't there, so I'm not saying it's a major issue. But when Wink can't stand it, let's be honest, Kafka doesn't want to be there. He's kind of like a captive prisoner because he's got another year of a contract. But, there was issues. And it wasn't just those two. If you listen to the reports, it wasn't just those two. So, he seems a lot calmer. He seems a lot kind of get his stuff together. I think he realizes he's got to change that. But he's got to have a year more like 22 than more like 23. Or else the talk and the conversation at least is going to be there. I really think unless it becomes a meltdown, like he loses the team kind of scenario, or he does a horrible press conference like Joe Judge did, that kind of thing. Like, I don't think there's a chance he leaves without one of those two things happening. I still think it's probably an 85% chance he returns because the Giants are just so desperate for some continuity. And they've seen him do it. So it's not like they can't do it. They've seen it. But if he has a really bad year like last year, he's probably gone.
Yeah.
Probably. So let's talk a little more happy news here. We got happy stuff here. And that's the fact that Azeez Ojulari and Andrew Thomas got an award from the NFL Players Association there. So always good to see Giants doing good at that point. So the Giants, those two players there got named NFLPA community MVPs. And, you don't see a lot of times when guys do right, you tend to hear more of what they supposedly did wrong at that point there. And here's two guys who did right. And what they did and where they got the acknowledgement from was they hosted over 100 kids. And there are kids and their families from the Boys Club, Boys and Girls Club of Newark, and the Secaucus Parks and Recreation for an advanced screening of the movie If, which is the Ryan Reynolds movie about imaginary friends. I haven't seen it, but I know it's about that at least.
Sure.
And not only did they do the event, but they posed for pictures with the attendees. This is the stuff that you remember, guys. Like, if you're a kid and you get to go to a movie and there's NFL players and they're taking pictures with you, I guarantee you these kids remember this day for the rest of their life. Guarantee it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's nice to see Giants players giving spare time away. Because let's be honest, this is what a lot of the time of the year the guys try to go on vacation, go off to Bora Bora, relax in one of those cottages with the glass bottom ocean views and stuff like that. Like,
or hang out with the family.
Yeah, like this is when they're trying to do that kind of stuff and relax and be a person. And they're still going out there doing things for the community. So glad to hear. Good to go. And nice to see they're getting recognized for doing that kind of work as well. We do get a little bit more back into some sad here. Former Giants center Greg Larson has passed away. Larson was a 6th-round pick out of Minnesota back in 1961. Spent 13 seasons with the Giants overall from 61 to 73. 179 games, 153 starts. We talked about him back when we had our list of greatest centers to ever play for the New York Giants. He was definitely on that list there. He appeared in the 9th most games in Giants history. Not that season, not the 60s. The 9th most games in in New York Giants history, 100 years. And he's in the top 10. Second most ever at the time of his retirement. Even he's had a few guys pass him since. Pro Bowler in 1968. In his time with the Giants, he only missed 3 games in his entire career, while having 7 surgeries, including 2 on his knee. So, like, that's pretty impressive. That kind of position to go ahead and have those kind of issues and continue to play like that. That's pretty crazy. So, definitely got to go ahead and give condolences to the family. Anybody maybe knew him at that point there, and hope everything is as well as possible for his family given the circumstances there. Again, obviously the man wasn't extremely young when he was drafted in 1961, but it's still never easy when you lose somebody there. So, like I said, our thoughts are with the family there and friends at that point of Greg Larson.
Yep.
Let's go pay the bills, though, guys, and let's get into a little more fun talks here. Let's pay the bills.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
All right, let's get through some comments here real quick for you guys. And we got a couple over there before. I know John was talking about the Hawk-Tua girls. He said she acts like she came up with that move, LOL. Yeah, I don't think she did. Probably that move is part of why she's alive. Talking about the helmet catch there, John said Strahan was like, don't throw it in the middle of the field, especially with Rodney Harrison defending on it. Yeah, like I said, Rodney Harrison was a really good player, and that's kind of overlooked, the difference of how good he was compared to how not so good David Tyree was. Not to be disrespectful to the man. He was a good special teamer. He was not a good receiver. John says he even grabbed it on his way down. Oh, he's talking about, yeah. He says, stop reading my mind, Drew, because I said the same thing about the fact that it didn't pop out against his helmet was pretty crazy. And then he said, yeah, Junior died sad. Yeah, I mean, he was definitely one of the big people when they talk about CTE and that kind of stuff with the ex-players there. John says that's got to suck to go undefeated in regular season, then lose in the final final Super Bowl game. Yeah, especially when they were this close to winning it. Like I said, Asante Samuel drops an interception, a crazy play to get that first down with the helmet catch there. Like they probably would have, like I said, probably win that game 7 or 8 times at least out of 10. And Rob said 9, but I'll say at least 7, or so. But yeah, that's where we're at there. John says, what guy? Lawrence Guy? You mean Lawrence Taylor? Lawrence Tynes? No, Lawrence Guy. The guy's name is Lawrence Guy. And then he lists Noah Gray, Jared Wiley, Irv Smith. Let's see here. John says, let's not get, oh gosh. Yeah, John says, gee, you think so, Justin Pugh? I mean, I said it was good analysis Justin Pugh gave. I especially he's in a tough position as a guy who played for the team to try to look at it while giving honest assessment while not going anti Daniel Jones, because he has a relationship with him. Obviously, it's hard for guys who played for a team and played on a team like that to go ahead and be objective. And I think he did a decent job of being objective while also not disparaging somebody who probably has at least somewhat of a friendly relationship with. John says, who we getting if Daniels doesn't bring it? Stur Sanders, maybe George Carson Beck. Who knows? Way too early. Paul Muty says, New York Giants all the way, baby, to the Super Bowl. I wish I had your enthusiasm, Paul. I'm not so sure if that's a legit outcome there. I do think they'll have a much better season than last year. Not have the embarrassing games we had. But I think, I think if we get in the playoffs, we should be ecstatic. That's where we should be. John says, Waller waste of money in a 3rd round pick. Hey, like I said, they had to do something. They did what they could at that point. Deb says, not sure how true it is, but I've read that Barkley has not looked good so far in Philly. Yeah, I've seen a couple of people say the same thing. That he hasn't almost like lost another step potentially. But we'll see how it is with the regular season. It's hard to tell in OTAs and stuff like that. There, I want to see live game action before I say that. Kind of thing as a true statement there. But we'll see. All right, let's see here. We got. Oh, let's see. Paul says Giants all the way, baby, to the Super Bowl again. Oh, so Paul, it's not going to happen probably. I wish it would. It's probably not going. Don't get your hopes up. John says Devin only good for 800 and 200 to 250 yards receiving. I thought he was better. No, that's honestly around where I'm expecting. If he gets around 800 yards and 200 yards receiving, does 1,000 combined yards, that's not a bad year. There's plenty of people who can't do that in the NFL. So, we'll see what happens there. Paul again says Giants all the way, baby. The Super Bowl. Paul, he's forever the opposite here. He says, "Go Giants." Then we read Deb's comment.
Go G-Man. He's playing man football.
Fun fact I read today: Coughlin and Parcells both made playoffs 5 times as Giants head coaches, and the 2 Super Bowl titles that each one occurred in their 4th and 8th seasons. So does that mean next year we're winning the Super Bowl?
saying we have a
if we're gonna put
chance.
Dable in that kind of scenario, not this year, like Paul thinks, next year. But yeah, no, like that is a weird coincidental thing. Plus, I mean, Parcells was on Coughlin's coaching staff too as well, so the connections were definitely there. All right, let's get into our last couple of bits of news. We got 4 more stories here to go over with you guys over the last week here. So, first off, we got to talk about, and I didn't think we were going to talk about this again, but we're going to do it. We're going to talk about it yet again here, and that's the NFL draft, because it looks like, and we'll see. Like you never know when you see these kind of stories what's true and what's not true, but it looks like the Giants may have been blocked from getting a successor to Saquon Barkley in the draft. And this is a guy that I know that Rob and I thought pretty highly of. We said he was the best running back in the draft, and we did our analysis there. And the rumor is the Giants were blocked by the Panthers from getting Jonathan Brooks, running back out of Texas, who they ended up taking in the second round. I'm not sure if we got blocked like to the point where like, oh God, without him, our season is over. Like, I don't think that was the scenario, but I don't doubt that somebody the Giants would have looked at potentially. So the Giants ended up being, taking him in for a top 30 visit. So there definitely was at least some interest in at least getting to know him ahead of the draft. The Panthers traded up to be 1 spot ahead of the Giants to draft Brooks. Obviously, the Giants lost Saquon Barkley in free agency there. We did obviously go ahead and get Devin Singletary, we alluded to before, so I'm not sure how big of a loss the Giants view it as. But GM Dan Morgan, though, was seen on a video released by the NFL that saying, hey, the Giants had him in for a visit, point blank, when they made the trade to get ahead of the Giants for that. Morgan and Giants GM Joe Shane did end up working together in Carolina, too, as well. So, and the other interesting part that was released on that was prior to the Panthers trade, they actually called up Joe Shane about trading spots. So they tried to trade up with the Giants. The Giants said no, and they went ahead and got ahead of the Giants, thinking the Giants wanted Jonathan Brooks. So I'm going to pose a question to you, Rob. And this was not anyway rehearsed, because I'm kind of curious to see what you think about this. Let's say the Giants go up in the second round, and that trade didn't happen. Jonathan Brooks and Tyler Nubin are both on the board. Who are you taking? It's a tough call, isn't it? It really is. Like,
yeah,
people are acting like this is a slam dunk. I would have taken, and I see a lot of people talking about it and posting about it. Everybody's acting as if we take Jonathan Taylor.
Brooks.
I'm sorry, Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. I was like, JT's been in the league a while now.
We're taking all the home improvement people. But everybody thinks we're taking Jonathan Brooks automatically. Like, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everyone was ecstatic when we got Nubin.
Yeah.
So now because like, I don't know, it's because it's the one that got away, possibly, that we're like,
oh, the one that got away.
That was a terrible pick. We should have had Brooks. Like, it's like a tough call. Like, we got Singletary to replace Barkley as a stepping stone. He's not the guy. He's not the dude that's going to be here forever.
Yeah.
Like, we all hoped Barkley was going to be
here for a couple years.
Yeah. But they will replace him. And, like, I don't know. I wasn't that crazy about this running back, like, draft.
You know what my issue is with this whole thing that no one is talking about in the story? Jonathan Brooks tore his ACL. But they don't even know if he's going to be ready for the season to start, at least. He'll be playing at some point in the season, obviously. We've talked about it before. ACLs, what happens? It takes 1 year to get fully back. So am I really going to draft a guy in the 4th round that I'm going to have for 4 years on a rookie deal? And the first year, I'm not able to see the real him.
Yeah, I mean, that
I would take Tyler Nubin over him.
Yeah, pretty much just off that, but like it's
and the injury. Like I said, if he was fully healthy, I would take Jonathan Brooks in a heartbeat over Tyler Nubin because I think he's that good a player. But with the injury issue, I can't do it. I got to take the guy who we're going to try to replace Xavier McKinney with, because I already had the guy that we're going to try to get Saquon Barkley to replace with.
I think,
and you see all the time, like 4th, 5th round guys that get drafted at running back and they make it. You don't see that with safety. That 2nd, 3rd round is that sweet spot for a lot of safety picks, and that's where we got Newman.
You're not wrong. I mean, Newman, just alluded to it yourself. Like, I think our bigger hole between the two positions is at safety.
Yeah.
And you take a guy at a position that normally does well in the NFL. And I'm not saying he's going to be McKinney. I'm not saying any of that stuff. But, like, if he doesn't, he plays at 7% of what McKinney played at. We got a top tier safety.
Yeah.
We know that Singletary could already play at 70% of what Barkley's doing.
Yeah.
And that's conservative. He's probably playing more than that.
85 more, to be honest.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That was very conservative.
OG Saquon, when he first came in the league, he's like 60%. But current Saquon, just to be clear, because somebody will think we're crazy for saying that, but current Saquon.
No.
6 years into the league Saquon. Like, there's a difference.
Big difference. You got a guy that, he missed a couple games, 5 years ago. Well, not 5 years ago, 6 years ago, like, and still throw up crazy amount of yards. But then you got a guy like Barkley last year, like, he was good. Was he Saquon's freshman year?
I think the only advantage that I would see over taking Jonathan Brooks over Tyler Newman is because of the fact we're kind of trying to stop with the Jones excuses. You know what I mean? Like, you can okay, listen, we got you a top flight receiver round 1. We fixed your offensive line in the off season. Now we're going to get you the top running back in the draft as well. So you can try to, have that. Like, that's the only positive I could have seen is like you're trying to load up to help Daniel Jones and see what he really can do. But you would have left such a hole at safety. And granted, you could have got somebody later on, obviously, similar to how we got Tyrone Tracy Jr. later on from Purdue as a running back, instead, since we didn't get Brooks. But to me, you got a starter that you needed a spot filled at. And you got a guy that you like how he played in college. He was a ball hawk. To me, he's a better player because of the fact that he plays a more important position. And you didn't have somebody to fill that position, whereas you had somebody who could fill the position at running back.
Correct.
So,
the biggest.
How much we blame the Panthers on this. The Panthers could have been fooled, honestly. Like, we might have not even gone for him, as John says. Thanks a lot, Panthers.
We could have high injected him. You don't know. We should picks.
It happens.
Or you waste your first round.
It happens in the NFL all the time, guys. So, speaking of Daniel Jones here, we do also have to talk about the fact that Daniel Jones was mentioned by NFL Media's Dan Parr as a player to root for, which is kind of nice to see somebody posting something positive about him. So many people put negatives against him like crazy. So, here's what he said, and he kind of is level-headed to what he says there for the most part. He says, considering Jones is guaranteed to make $36 million this season, I realize the man doesn't need my sympathy. I still have some for him, though. Fed-up Giants fans might not want to hear it, but Dimes doesn't seem to catch many breaks in the field. The offensive lines protecting him were ranked 30th or lower by PFF at each of the last 4 seasons. So, yes, it's not a surprise he's had injury issues. Now he's entering a season that could be his last with New York if he doesn't play much better, following an offseason in which the Giants tried to replace him via the draft. They did give Jones the most talented receiver he's ever had on the team, picking Malik Neighbors 6th overall. But will it be too little, too late? Perhaps it would be fun and unexpected to see Jones silence the critics. No one deserves to have a career defined by the one play where you run 80 yards and then fall over without being touched. Which, yes, he'll probably always be known for that play to a certain degree.
Yeah. Unless he wasn't Super Bowl, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment of what it is. I mean, he hasn't had the fair shake. He's had so many coaches, so many coordinators, so many offensive lines.
We've talked
never
about
really
this
had receiver help. Yeah. So, like, I don't want to go into all the individuals like that, but he's not wrong. And I'm going to root for him because I'm a Giant fan. And I'm sorry, if you don't root for Daniel Jones, you're not a Giant fan. You're not.
Yeah.
You're just a fan who likes to complain about the Giants. Like, I never get that sometimes. You get fans that legitimately want to see him fail. Like, that's not good. You can still want him to succeed and still say, I don't think he's the long-term answer, but I wish him the best this season because he's my quarterback.
Correct.
That's a fair and okay thing to do. That's my vibe I have on him. I don't think he's the long-term answer. Could he prove me wrong this season? Who knows? Stranger things have happened. But, I mean, I don't think he's the answer, but I still want the best season he can possibly have because he's the Giants quarterback, and I'm a Giants fan. Plus, it helps for us to talk about a team winning instead of a team losing.
I was going to say
we're not cursing as much and flipping out as much, But
we don't have to do family therapy.
Yeah, I really think that it's crazy to see fans like just like, no, I hope he falls on his butt and Drew Lock comes in. Why would you want that? Why?
Why would you want Drew Lock?
Like, Drew Lock is not going to come in to be the Pro Bowler, guys. Like, it's not going to happen. So
yeah,
your best shot you have for success is 2022 version of Daniel Jones. So hopefully that's what we get. So let's talk about the latest championship for the New York Giants.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes. And that's the cornhole champion, Jason Pinnock, which
Joe.
Listen, I've seen this as a thing. And actually, Rob, we went out last week when I was down in Jersey, obviously. And wasn't that on TV actually on Friday night?
It was. I pointed out we were in Red Bank.
We're at the Teak in Red Bank there.
Yeah.
But
if you want to sponsor the show.
Tiki room. I got a Disney in my head now. But yeah, he was out there. The American Cornhole League had their celebrity series. So that's the ACL. Each pairing was a NFL player and an ACL pro. So kind of like what they do at the golf when they have the pro-ams and they have a one professional golfer and like Tony Romo, like that kind of thing, like, or Charles Barkley.
It is so fitting that a Giants team member wins an ACL.
Are you going into the notes already?
Oh, no.
Why don't you read to me the third line of the notes, Rob?
Oh, wow.
Wow. Why did you go ahead and read it, Rob? Go for it.
Is it ironic considering how many ACL injuries they have been that the Giants would have a player win an ACL championship competition?
See? Anyway, Pinnock was paired with Ethan Walker. Giants cornerback Cordell Flott also participated. He was paired with Terry Mathis. Other NFL players included Packers running back A.J. Dillon, Packers corner Carrington Valentine, Falcons running backs Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, Bears tackle Braxton Jones, and Bears cornerback Tyreek Stevenson. The teams competed over in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
I think it's Milwaukee.
Hopefully that's not the only championship that we win this season here. I think that would definitely make Paul very happy, as he said we're going to the Super Bowl episode long here. One last bit of news here for you guys before we head on out. So the Sporting News gave a list of an all overpaid team. And yeah, listen, Giants got some people on it. And you probably expect to hear Daniel Jones' name on there. But no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. We did have two Giants, though, named to the list. And the picture on the video is kind of a dead giveaway who that is. But yeah, Daniel Jones was not named to the team, though. Like I said, I'm sure everybody kind of expected it. Deshaun Watson got the spot, and I think that's fair. Deshaun Watson was clear to play by the team doctors last year. Was like, no, I'm good. That's legit where he was at. Like, no, I'm good. Yeah. I'm gonna need another week or two to heal up here. I'm playing. And obviously you got the history with him, the tons of money they gave, the draft picks they gave, and he's just not been that good. We'll play this year though, so we'll see what happens. We have the Daniel Jones versus Deshaun Watson, the two most overpaid quarterbacks in all of the NFL, battling it out. The two guys who did get listed, guard John Runyon Jr. got the spot. They said the Giants also overspent inside in free agency for the fading former Packer. Yeah, I'm not sure I would agree with their assessment. I do think we overpaid for him because he's a great pass blocker, but not a good run blocker. But listen, sometimes when you're a bad team, you overpay for people to get them. That's life. People aren't exactly beating the door down to go play for the New York Giants. They want to play for the Chiefs, the Bills, the Dolphins. I hate to say it, but the Eagles. That's the teams they want to play with, the teams that they think have a chance of winning a championship. They're not really excited about the hope of being excited by a 7-10 season at the end of the year. That's legit. The other guy they said was kicker Graham Gano. The write-up was Gano has limited range and has started to become less reliable on field goals at 37. He also
dealt with injuries last year, which is kind of unfair. Oh my God, that guy was injured for on and off for half the year, but he's unreliable.
Like I said, I get the John Runyon thing to a degree. I didn't see them list who else they were looking at to kind of compare individuals like that. I don't pretend to know every single guard in the NFL and what they're making compared to what they're doing. But yeah, it's just kind of like I look at this and go, Graham Gano, really? So he had a really bad year last year. Obviously got injured, was out there when he probably shouldn't have been. They mentioned his leg strength. Let me give you his stats at 50 and over. Just 50 and over. So this is not chip shot field goals. Last year, 3 of 4. Year before, 8 of 9. Year before, 7 of 10. Year before that, 5 of 6. The year before that, 3 of 4. He hasn't missed more than 1 from 50 yards out since 2018. We're talking the last 5 years, except for 1 season. They're talking out of their tuchus, to put it nicely.
Just like that scene in Ace Ventura.
I think they're just looking at the fact that he didn't have a good year overall last year. I got him 64.7% in field goals last year. Got a career average of 83.7. The year before, he was 90.6. So it's huge drop off. But again, he wasn't healthy. He was injured.
He was wheeled out there. Yeah, he's wheeled out there with the bum kicking leg.
In a very unfair way. I still can't believe the Giants ever did that to him. That was so horrible, especially with a team that that's not going to go to the playoffs, not going to do anything. Yeah, that's just absolutely insane. But yeah, that's the guys they picked, guys. And like I said, I kind of get running to a certain degree. I don't disagree overpaid, but I think we probably had to. I don't think that Joe Shane went out there going, you know what we should do? Let's overpay for a free agent. That's what free agency is. Most free agency signings are overpays. But the Graham Gano one's crazy. That's just now. If he comes back this year and he doesn't play like you expect him to play because maybe there's some lasting effects from the injury or age has finally got to him this year, because again, he is 37. They're not wrong on that. Then I get it. Then you're not wrong. But you are foreshadowing and foreseeing that as an issue. You can't call that a current issue right now. That'd be insane. He's one of the best kickers in the league. So again, another example of a national sporting news trying to talk Giants football that just doesn't follow Giants football enough to do so. That's exactly what it is. I guarantee they looked at the field goal percentage overall for the season and didn't see the fact that he was 75% from over 50 yards. That's not bad. I'll take that.
No.
So So they need to shut up.
Just a pothole, Wing Chun.
Yeah.
Also,
No
what
one's
was the average over 50 last year? Was it 66%?
I honestly I don't know that number off the top of my head, but again, I'm not gonna be upset over that. That to me
your team missed one.
Yeah, that's not too big a deal at that point at all. So, all right, guys. So we're gonna call it a night. We're gonna be back here again for you guys Wednesday. What we do is going to depend on what goes on in the football world. Obviously, we have a ton of new stories and stuff to go over there with you guys. We'll continue that. If we don't, obviously, we'll continue our series on the looking back at the NFL drafts. We still have to do next is 2010. So that'll be the next one we're going to do there. I do think that's probably going to be the topic, though, guys. So if anything else pops in, obviously, we'll give you guys a heads up on that and get ahead of time. That's what we're doing. And of course, we're going to be live, like I said, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, and of course, Rob's favorite,
Drew's LinkedIn page.
Yes, my LinkedIn page. And then, of course, we'll be available also on all the audio podcast platforms the next day, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. On all the audio podcasts, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all the big ones there, of course. So we will see you guys then, of course. And, again, who knows what's going to happen there? It's like, oh, is that the Hawk? All right, guys. We will see you guys next episode. And as always, Giant fans.
Go G-Man!
Go G-Man!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.